of Cultural Legacy Builder as I am coming live. As I come live, I have a call to someone. Someone's calling me that I really need to speak to. So, I'll tell him I can't talk right now. Well, hello, Cultural Legacy Builders. Today is day 3 of the Cultural Legacy Builder Challenge. And I want to do a little test to make sure you can hear me because my moderator was unable to hear me. So I want to make sure that you can on Facebook. And I'm seeing my words. So I'm going to make the assumption that it's working and I can hear myself. Yep, I am live and I can hear myself. Oh, wow. Technical issues. That's okay. I believe in 828, which means all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. So, welcome to day 3 of the Cultural Legacy Builder Challenge. My name is Kathy Cross-Reese, and I am bringing you 5 days of valuable content to help you generate wealth for you and generations to come. And that wealth happens to be through various vehicles. I happen to have my own preference of the vehicles that I prefer to use. But nevertheless, let's do some housekeeping and announcements. I'd like to announce our winner for yesterday. Actually, Nerjishta gave me a name yesterday that I did not announce. Nerjishta, can you put it in the chat? The winner for yesterday. Can you put it in the chat so I can make that announcement? So each day I am giving away a Amazon gift card and maybe some other things that I think of to give away for those who are participating. So if you're on the Zoom, if you're hearing what is being spoken, if you have questions, whatever sort of engagement you provide, that lets me know you're here and that my time is not wasted because I don't like to waste my time. I don't think anybody likes to waste their time. So thank you. And I can hear you well. Thank you, Nergista, for saying that. On the back end, we were having some challenges. So each day I'm giving away a prize or an award for those who do their homework. One of the homework assignments, very easy, very fun to do, is identity. In this age of identity, I won't go much further than that. It's important to know who you are. And day 1, I talked about foundation. So foundation, we're using the analogy of building a house. With the foundation, we talked about knowing what's in your hand, right? Knowing exactly what you're working with. Anytime you're working on a project, it's good to assemble all of the components that you have to create whatever it is you plan to create. Same thing works with generating wealth or leaving a legacy. You have to know what you have in order to be able to build upon it. So we talked about that in day 1. So I'm actually going from announcements to giving a recap. So I'm flowing. Work with me here. And then day 2, I talked about the walls. Those walls are actually called a frame. When you're building a house, builders do the foundation and they do the frame. I called it walls yesterday, same context. But when you're building those walls or you're setting the frame, you're putting different areas that you are designating for certain assets. Some of those assets I mentioned yesterday had to do with real estate. I happen to work in real estate, so that's a very easy one for me. But maybe there's other assets that you have. Maybe you're into fine art, very fine art collectibles. I have a peer I'm in another group with, and he has wineries. Those are his, he has an expertise with knowing wines, with knowing vintages, all of that stuff. So he has expertise there. Maybe you have expertise in fine collectibles or jewelry or maybe stocks, maybe bonds. All of those are various sorts of investments that help build those walls and sets the frame for what you plan to work toward, what you're planning to leave that legacy for, right? Because we're talking about that cultural legacy builder. So you're building something. We even talked about going back through our ancestry to know who we are. And I gave you an example yesterday that I looked on a page, a group that I created, a private Facebook group for my mother's side of the family, so we could get to know one another in preparation for. So I'm building toward creating a family reunion next year. So, what are you building? What have you found in your culture, in your DNA, that you would like to pass on to the next generation? What legacy do you want to leave, or what walls, what frame are you setting so that you can transition that? And today, that's the piece we're talking about. How do we take this foundation and the walls? What do you think is the next component? I want to take it from the chat and let me look and see what I have in here. Okay. Oh, I see. Let me back up. Deborah is the winner for yesterday. So, Deborah, make sure you message me and DM me and give me your contact information. I already have it, but message me so that you are aware that you are the winner. And Catherine, I did not get your information to send you from day one. So each day we have a winner. Day one was Catherine, day two is Deborah. So who will it be for day three? I've already let you know how you can win a prize by engagement. Engagement. I'd like to hear from you. I certainly love to share, but I also want to hear from you. So let me hear from you, okay? Okay. So the question for you, if you're on Facebook or if you're on Zoom, the question for you is, what do you think comes next? I talked about the foundation. I talked about the frame or the walls. What do you think comes next? Take a wild guess. Let me see it in the chat. What comes next? You're building a house. Just think visually. What do you see when you're driving by and you see construction taking place? What do you see? And I cannot see the Facebook chat. So, Najishta, if there's something, stick it in the chat. I don't see it. So I don't want to take up too much time because I'm on limited time for today. I want to make sure I hit all the points for today, right? So I don't see a response. I'll give it to you. Ding, ding, ding. It's the roof. So the roof. The roof provides the protection when you're building a house, when you're constructing a house. And that gives you the protection that you need in order to be able to preserve what it is you're building. So, how do you think we preserve what we're building when we talk about that cultural legacy building or builder? What do you think preservation or preserving will do when you're correlating the roof of a building to this legacy, these houses, these assets that you have? What sort of protection vehicle do you think that is? And if you know it and you're listening in the replay or even live, put it in the chat. I'd like to hear what you think that is. And I'll go ahead and tell you that it's several things, but I'm going to start with a foundation basis because this is basically a 30-minute speed overview of some deep, thoughtful content that I'd like to go deeper with you, either on VIP or we can go into a workshop and I go through all of this in depth. But one of those foundational vehicles is a insurance policy. Insurance. There's all types of insurance. There's life insurance, there's liability insurance, there's all types of insurance, but insurance, that's a protection vehicle. Another protection vehicle is, I don't see it in the chat yet. Another protection vehicle is entities. Entities. So entities such as LLC, S Corp, and then the ultimate one that I want to really hone in on is a trust. And I did hear one of our live speakers on Facebook Live, Catherine went live talking about a trust. She has established one. Now, with a trust, that's a protection vehicle. Now, there's revocable and irrevocable trust. So I don't want to go into the detail on that. We can talk about that either in VIP or in the workshop later if you want to go deeper in any of those aspects. But entities provide protection not just for taxation, but that is definitely a good one. It provides protection for taxation, so you don't have the same tax implications as you would if you were a sole proprietor. For example, let's back up. Let's come out of the detail. I have been a realtor for almost 30 years, and it was about year 10 to year 15, I realized that I was paying a lot of money in taxes. And I wasn't paying taxes as I went along. I paid taxes at the end of the year, like most people do. However, I didn't know at the time that the way I had set up my business was really putting me at risk for a lot of things. So I got wisdom from mentorship and coaching, mentoring, found out I needed to put it in an entity. So I put my business in I think I'm in an S corp. There's an S corp and a C corp. So I put my business in a corporation. And from that year on, I have not paid any additional taxes. So I pay my taxes quarterly, quarterly, quarterly. So if you're a sole proprietor and you own your own business, you pay your own taxes as a sole proprietor. And if you're a corporation or an LLC, you continue to pay your taxes. You just set it up differently. You set it up in quarterlies and you prepay them, you prepay them, you prepay them. So when it comes time for you to actually file your annual taxes, you don't have that huge tax implication. So that is key for any of you who are running your own business, if you're self-employed, if you're running your own business, that's key to ensure that you put that business in an entity. That is your roof. That is your protection. So remember that when you think of roof, think of protection, whether that's insurance or whether that's an entity. So if you don't have insurance and you don't have an entity, those are two things that you want to work toward getting because that is your protection. You want to have a roof over your head, right? I think you want to have a roof over your head. I hope you do. Okay, so that is your protection piece. Now, I did say that helps you to avoid taxes. That doesn't mean you won't pay taxes. It just means you won't have the tax burden that you would have if you were a sole proprietor. So remember that. Now, the other piece is a will. That's another protection vehicle for those who you leave behind, those generations to come. Now, in as an example, in my case, my father did not have a will and he did not have life insurance. He didn't have either of those. I've since learned that those are great protection assets that I would highly recommend, and I have them. I have both of them, and that's important for you to have. Now, even though my father didn't have those items, he had so much more. He was savvy enough to invest in real estate, so he owned multiple properties, and he was smart enough to transfer those properties before he passed away, and he was also savvy enough to plan in advance to make sure my mother was cared for the rest of her life with with their primary residence, which by law transferred into my mother's name upon his passing. And then after it passed on to my mother, it passed on to me because there was a death deed. I talk about that in the entity portion in the workshop. So I just wanted to kind of give a big overview. The roof is your protection. So the question I have for you, are you protected? Are you protecting the legacy that you are building? And if the answer to that is no, then now they say, now that you know, now you can do something about it. When you know better, you do better. I think that's the right way to say it. So when you know better, you do better. So I want to empower you with this insight on protection. The roof that you have is what you have in your hands. It's the stuff you've been working on from the foundation to those walls, that framework. I know that in my case, I've created two trusts. Now, you might decide you only need one trust. Now, trust is another level of entity. It's something that wealthy people do to protect their legacy, to protect their inheritance. Now, that's a piece I didn't really talk much about yet, inheritance. Um, so wealthy people tend to put their monies in trust. I happen to deal with a lot of people that purchase and sell homes, and they start out with their names on the contract, and right before closing, they say, "Oh, we want to close under this trust, or we want to close under this entity." So they'll change it because they want to protect what it is they have, and they want that to pass on. I was starting to say I've created two trusts, and the reason is twofold. One is I have a family of origin, right? My mother and father, family of origin, and I had 2 siblings, and from those siblings are more children. So with the gift that my father gave me, I want to ensure that I live up to the trust that he bestowed upon me, right? He trusted me to take care of what he's left, and he's trusted me to take care of the business of the family. And part of the business of the family are the assets that he's acquired. Now, this is a example that he set for me. Now, I'm doing the same thing. I'm creating, right? I'm creating, I'm building, I'm finding assets that I can not only acquire, but that I can put into the trust. So the trust is basically this nice roof. But if you don't have anything to put in it, it's just a roof with no house. Because tomorrow we're going to talk about what you're going to start putting, those components. We talked about the foundation, the walls, the frame, and the roof. But tomorrow we're going to talk about some of those things that you're going to put inside. And getting back to, I lost my chain of thought on the walls and the protection and the asset. So what I was getting to is the entities that you have. Well, I said I had 2 trusts. That's where I left off. Thank you, Jesus. Okay. So the 2 trusts that I set up, one is from my family of origin because of the example that my father set for me. I want to replicate that and create generational wealth because that's the ultimate goal, is to have wealth creation. And in order to create and to build wealth, you have to acquire assets. I happen to believe that real estate is the best asset to create wealth. You may disagree. That is my opinion. Wealth creation from real estate is premium for me. Does that mean I'm not going to invest in any other assets? No. It just means that's something that will get me momentum and get me there faster, in my opinion. Now, that's one trust that I set up for my family of origin. The other trust that I set up is for my current family of origin, my children and my children's children. And so I didn't introduce my family to you at the beginning of this. So take a short backup on this. I'm married for 27 years. This will be my 27th year. I have 3 daughters, 1 son. My husband had a son before we were married, and I had a daughter before we were married. So we have 2 plus 2, so we have 4 together. And my mother, I'd mentioned that she lives with us. And so I have 2 grandsons. One's Elijah and one's Xavier. So one's 7 and one's 6. No, he's 5. He will be 6 in July. He just had his graduation today. He just graduated from kindergarten. So I might post his graduation picture, but that's who I'm doing it for. I'm doing it for Xavier and Elijah because they get to see me in action. They get to see me at home working because they happen to live with me. They get to see me at home working. They get to come into the office. They get to go out on appointments. If it works out where it's a good situation, I'll take them out on appointments, maybe to put up signs, things like that. They are aware of what their grandmother is doing. They call me Gma, by the way. They're aware of what I'm doing. So I am bringing them in and I'm teaching them and training them on wealth creation. We talk about money. They like to look at money and count money. Well, they don't actually like to count money. I've taught them how to count money because they would just count the monies one, two, three, four, five. But now they fully understand there's numbers on those bills and you don't want to get cheated. So that's a side note. That's the family of my current family and those generations to come that I'm building this legacy for. I'm building these assets and this wealth for because wealth transfers from generation to generation. And if it doesn't transfer from generation to generation, it could end up in probate. It could end up in um, someone else's pocket. And I don't want that to happen. I definitely want to set up the frame. I want to set up the structure, the protection. I want to have all of that wrapped up nice and neat so that I can pass it on to the next generation. And that's what I want to teach you. I want to teach you and show you that this is the way for you to create and to build generational wealth through real estate, owning it, investing it, and leaving that legacy for generations to come, for your children's children. So I've been talking a lot. So I want to check and see if there are any questions before I continue. And I don't see any right now. So I'll continue. So let me see, we talked about those keys on what you're working with, the frame, the valuables, the roof, the entities, the trust, the protection, and the avoidance of probate and the avoidance of taxes. And those taxes are the taxes that you pay for, you pay for the money that you're acquiring through the business. So let's say you're investing. Let's say you're an investor, and because I happen to be both real estate broker as well as an investor. So let's say you're investing and you go out and you start wholesaling some deals and you start getting all of this money. If you don't have it set up under some structure, some entity, then every dollar is taxed. Every dollar is taxed. So think about that in terms of the investments that you are doing because you want to build, you want to grow, yet you don't want to pay it all or a large percentage of it, an unreasonable percentage of it back to, I call him Uncle Sam. You don't want to pay it back to the government if if at all possible. You want to pay your fair share. I do believe in paying my fair share of taxes, but I don't want to go back to where I was 15 years ago, where I was paying 30 to 35% of my income in taxes. Um, so for those of you who are already doing that, let this be a wake up call to you that there's another way. There's a better way. So I want to check again and see if there are any questions. And so I see I have about 5 minutes left. So I want to kind of bring this full circle on where we are and why I'm even doing this. You may even ask, what is this all about? Well, this is considered a challenge. It's an online challenge in which I'm giving you valuable content and I'm inviting you into a deeper dive, which will be the VIP session on both Friday and Saturday. Those will be 1 hour sessions where we'll go a little deeper. And if there's questions that you have, I'll answer those questions and then invite you into the workshop that will eventually happen the following week. So, and I also have, besides the VIP, I have what's called a playbook. The playbook, I've been working on that and revising it. I'm actually working on a book, and I had thought about giving part of the first chapter of that book with the playbook this time. So if you purchase the playbook this time, you'll get a first draft of my book. My book is actually written, but I'm reframing, restructuring, covering it and everything. And the title of my book is Unapologetically Me. And then I have a little tagline under that, which escapes me right now, but that is something I can add to the playbook for those of you who want to purchase the playbook. The playbook takes you step by step through how you can create your own generational wealth through owning, investing, and then doing the protection piece, the legacy piece. I call it legacy building, but it's really a protection piece so that you can create that and you can continue that generational wealth from yourself to the next generation. I apologize, I keep getting phone calls. It only happens when I almost feel like I'm at home. When I'm at home, everybody's calling me, and then when I, you know, find a place to hide, I go in the bathroom to maybe answer a phone call or get some business done, and then they're coming there too. So, hey, it's good. I'm blessed. I'm blessed that, they love me and they want me. So that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. So the playbook, getting back to that, I said this time if you purchase the playbook, I think I'll pull a first chapter of my book, Unapologetically Me. I think that would be valuable for those of you who want to write your own book or just kind of want to know more of the story because there's a lot of depth to the story and there's a lot of lessons to be learned in everyone's story. There's lessons to be learned. And I believe if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. And there are things in my past that I definitely do not want to repeat. And there are things that I have learned that I definitely want to incorporate. And that is key for you. I want you to incorporate and capture the vision of creating this generational wealth through those assets that you're acquiring, that you're building this foundation on something solid, right? I think of the three, is it the three bears? Yeah, I think it's the three bears. One of them built their house out of straw, and one of them built it out of sticks, and the other one built it out of bricks. So the question is, which little piggy, excuse my language, but which one will you be? Which one will you be? I prefer brick houses myself. I like something solid and sure. I don't want things to crumble because I have been in situations where I've allowed myself to get over get get overly invested in something that did not pan out. So I have had failures. I've had many failures, and I want you to learn how to do it the right way. I want you to learn how to focus the trajectory the right way so that you can build a sure, strong foundation. Not just a sure, strong foundation, but have a frame, right? Those walls that you build, that's your frame, and have that roof, that solid protection on top. And that protection, as I went through today, had to do with the insurance as well as the entities. And the ultimate entity that I recommend is the trust. So we are down to 2 minutes, and I thank you for coming to listen to day 3 of cultural legacy building. Each day, we'll talk about another component of building this legacy, right? Creating this legacy that you are building for generational wealth for your children's children. And if not for your children's children, whoever you love that you want to ensure has what it is you have, because we're not here on this earth forever, but we have time to create all the things that we want and to acquire all the things we want here, and then we're going to leave it, right? Steve Jobs was the wealthiest man, I believe, in the world, and he passed away probably at a younger age than most people would have liked who acquired or amassed a lot of wealth. But there was no money in the world he could have paid to live longer. But the money that he created, the Apple, the phone, that's his legacy. The Apple phone, the phone that I happen to hold, I happen to have, that's Steve Jobs' legacy. What will yours be? What will your legacy be? I'd like to know that. What will your legacy be? Put it in the chat. I'd like to know. Go live, share. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you. And I will see you on tomorrow on day 4. Bye for now.